Berger, Hunter Harold, and Brooke Johnson.
Second
Put
that.
your microphone on.
I second that.
Okay. And just to repeat, we just took a motion on the fire department, motion to hire John Williams, Mark Pleasenberger, Hunter Harold, and Brooke Johnson, and we are in open session. And we just took a first motion from Bill. Is there a second? Second from Michael. All those in favor? All those opposed? The motion passes. Congratulations, those candidates. And now in the police department, and I'll take a motion to hire David Bertram.
Second.
All right, all those in favor? All right, the motion passes. Congratulations, David.
How much longer is the agenda? I'm sure he didn't say. Yeah, it's even colder out here. Yeah, was it like that when we first got there? I don't know, but we were chilly in the other room too, so.
All right, next up, we will have presentation of the police department operations, and we have Chief Livin here.
Good morning.
Morning.
So I sent you the quarterly report.
I got nothing.
And that's not anything on my end, right?
I don't think so. The master's on. Give it a try now.
How about now? All right. So I sent you the quarterly report from the police department. I think that speaks for itself. I'm happy to answer any questions about that. Yeah, Michael.
Yeah, I think the quarterly is great, and you really tightened it up, so good job. Three things that stood out to me. There's a fair amount of activity with arrest with small amounts of drugs. There's a new marijuana law proposal at the state. It looks like it's a bipartisan bill. That bill would have a state penalty for the possession of up to 14 grams of marijuana, and it would be reduced to a $100 civil forfeiture, similar to a speeding ticket. Current law makes that a first-time misdemeanor. Do you think that'll have a dramatic impact on, your time that you guys spend in those activities, and generally, what do you think that'll have as an impact on the department?
Yeah, I'm not sure that it'll have much of an impact, to be honest, in terms of time that we spend on things. We're still, if we come across somebody that has small amounts of marijuana, we'll still, have to enforce that. It might be a little bit different in terms of the penalty, but the processing of those types of situations doesn't change much. I think I noted in the first page, my message, we don't spend a lot of time really focused on marijuana investigations anyway. A lot of the marijuana that we end up seizing is a result of other investigations, whether sometimes it's traffic stops, but a lot of times it's, we're doing investigations into heroin, methamphetamine, cocaine dealing, and we encounter marijuana. So of course we make those arrests too, and those referrals, and seize those drugs. But I'm not sure that that'll have a ton of impact on our operations.
And then I think I recall reading something in the news about chronic nuisance landlord and how the city was trying to get somebody to be named as a chronic nuisance landlord, and then it ultimately didn't happen. I may not be recalling those facts correctly, But do you think that that ordinance is working, or is it?
Yeah, I think it is working. You know, when we have neighborhood problems, that ordinance allows us, if we have 3 enforcement actions within a 6-month period, and that can be law enforcement actions or inspections-related enforcement actions. And enforcement actions means a written warning or a citation, or criminal arrests can be included in that too. And it gives us leverage to be able to go to, typically it's a rented property, so it gives us leverage to go to the landlord to say, you know, we're having problems with your tenants here, the issues that it's creating in the neighborhood, here are some things you can do as a landlord to mitigate that nuisance. And typically we're able to mitigate that nuisance. I think the struggles we typically have is when it's a owner-occupied residence, then we don't have the leverage, the landlord doesn't have the leverage then to either evict the tenants or get them to come into compliance with what the laws are. But it is a good ordinance. I think the residents that didn't get declared chronic nuisance, there were 3 enforcement actions within 6 months. We were having a lot of issues with that. And my recollection is the tenant of the property went into drug recovery, and they were turning their life around and able to make progress in the intervening month or month and a half from the time that we issued the chronic nuisance warning to when they had the hearing at the city council meeting. So that's why they decided, and I think we were okay with that decision because we weren't having the nuisance actions at the residence anymore. So I think we were fine with that.
That's a great outcome.
Yeah, it was.
And then the last question I have, just because it was very unique, was the citizen complaint that was referred to the DA.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like the body cam footage was very helpful in that regard. Can you just shed a little bit more light on that issue? That sounds pretty significant.
You bet. So I think between internal investigations and citizen complaints, we've had about 20 of them this year. And the body camera that we have, that footage is always valuable in those investigations because we get to see exactly what was said and what transpired in those situations. We get the vast majority of citizen complaints that we receive are either patently false or they're exaggerated, and that's why the body camera footage is really important for us. In this specific incident that I referred to in my summary, in my chief's message, there were things that were said that were patently false, excessive use of force that was alleged, physical harm that was alleged to have occurred, in a variety of different things. And so they filed a complaint, and then a written complaint, and then Captain Graham did the review of the body camera footage. He did interviews of all of the officers involved, and then called the complainants back in to do further follow-up with them. And at the outset of that interview with both of those individuals, he said, you know, I've reviewed the body camera footage, I've done interviews of the officers, so I've seen what's transpired, and and he reminded them it's a crime if you make a false complaint against a police officer. And they said everything we said is true, and they reiterated everything that they had said in the allegations that were just patently false, and they were so we just made the decision to make that referral to the district attorney.
Did the complainants know that you had body cam footage?
Yeah, we told them, in that follow-up interview, we told them that we had reviewed all the body camera footage.
Huh. Crazy. Well, they just didn't remember well then.
No, yeah,
Obviously.
I mean, I think, like I said, most of the citizen complaints that we get are either just patently false or they're seriously exaggerated.
Yeah.
And so the body camera footage helps us, you know, investigate those and see what the reality of the situation was.
Yeah.
But our officers in this case were very professional, and they executed exactly what we want them to do in terms of our policy.
Yeah, good. Thank you.
You bet.
Any other questions?
And then just to follow up on that second item in terms of the promotional process for the administrative captain, that was approved by the city council, so we moved forward and developed a process for that. We have 2 candidates that have submitted interest, and we have papers that are due and this week, and then we have, I'm requiring them to do a presentation and do an interview, and that'll be on the 10th of December. And so I think one of the last items on here is the December PFC meeting. And so my hope is that it's after December 10th so that we can bring our administrative captain to the PFC for approval.
And I just want to highlight in the report as well that the emergency police saved the city $28,071.19 doing volunteer work and local events. So our appreciation on behalf of the commission and the city.
You bet. And our emergency police numbers are dwindling. I think we're usually at about 35 to 40, and right now I think we have about 20. And so we have 20 people doing the work of 35 to 40, and like you said, it's all volunteer work. They save the city tens of thousands of dollars every year. They're very professional. They're organized. So anybody listening, if you're interested in doing some volunteer work with the emergency police, it's a very rewarding opportunity, and they do great work.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right. Well, thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
All right, next up, Chief Bartek with the presentation of the fire department operations.
Thank you. You should have received the quarterly report from our admin. I'm excited to say that we're finally moving towards expanding that monthly report. Obviously, it's just very numbers driven. It's very operations based. It's not capturing what a lot of our organization is doing elsewhere. And so I've got staff working on hopefully the start of that report will have a highlight from the training division, a highlight from the EMS division. I have a cover page from me about some of the highlights that have gone over the last month. And so we're hoping to kick that off softly in December, and then all of next year to continue to develop that into a better capture of what we're doing as an organization. If you have any requests for data or for information that you'd like to see contained in that, please send me a note or just ask me, and I'll make sure that gets in there as we continue to move forward. My thought on that is just recently we're in a conversation right now with the expansion of our TEMS team into the mobile field force with the Marathon County Sheriff Department, but there's no really way to report that to you in our current monthly report. And it's dozens of things like that occur every week and month that we need to be conveying to you and the community. So any questions on the report that you were given, though? Okay. The other thing I had added to the agenda, and I'll keep this as a topic each time until we're finally at the point where we have a plan in place. On November 8th, I made a 40-minute presentation to the Common Council on the need for additional firefighter paramedics in this community. It was well received by the commission last week at the Public Health and Safety meeting on last week Monday. They took a formal step forward and recommended the hiring of 9 additional firefighters. So now that'll go to the Human Resources Committee on December 13th. And so at each point, I'm trying to give each different committee what they need to make their decisions at that level. So with the Public Health and Safety Committee, we highlighted, and as I did during my presentation to the entire council, we had highlighted some recent fires, one specifically on November 1st, where we run into our cross-staffing configuration where the EMS units are busy doing EMS work, and now we have a fire that drops, and the correlating firefighters to those engine companies aren't there. And so we have 2-person engine companies arriving on fires. Well, it just so happened that November 11th, just 2 days after my presentation in the council, we had that exact scenario with Station 2 and Station 1's and Station 3's med unit tied up in EMS calls when a working structure fire came in. Ethan Bars, our city media person that we just recently hired, was actually doing a ride along with the police department that night and was able to capture some very early, some very dramatic, some very telling video and photographs of that incident that then I was able to highlight as a case study to the Public Health and Safety meeting. That's, if you haven't seen it, it's of course on YouTube, and we have that video, and so it's very compelling, and speaks to exactly what we're talking about. In that video, you see the first engine arrive, and it's got an engineer and a lieutenant on it, and they need to deploy a 2.5-inch hose line, which is typically a 3 firefighter hose line, and a single lieutenant has to deploy that on his own. And you see Brian Boutnick managed to do that and get early water onto the fire and save the home. And the neighboring home was, we were seeing the neighboring home, it had potential to spread there. The vinyl siding was starting to melt on the neighboring home. And so luckily his quick actions and doing above and beyond is what saved that home. And so I go through break down the whole video at that public health and safety meeting. When I go to meet with the HR committee on December 13th, that's when I'm going to unveil the deployment plan, which isn't terribly complex. We want to put a firefighter paramedic into the backseat of each 3 engine companies in the city. And we look forward to having a conversation with them about what that looks like. And then I'll move on to finance committee after that before council action. So I'm hoping over in the next December and January, we see this move forward. Getting a lot of media requests about it. Recently, Brian from the City Pages came and did an interview with me. He wrote a really great piece in the Wausonian that came out over the weekend on it. I've actually got some printed copies. If you like a copy, I'd be happy to give you one. I really feel like he captured what I'm trying to convey to this community about the desperate need that we have for firefighter paramedics. So I think that we're going to see some gaining momentum as we move forward with it.
Thank you.
Any questions?
All right. Well, thank you, Chief. All right. So the next meeting we have on the agenda for December 27th, but I'm actually going to propose that because of the holidays that we move that up to Monday, December 20th at 7:30. Would that work for everyone? Okay. So then the next meeting will be then Monday, December 20th at 7:30. Okay. Is there any further discussion? If not, may I please have a motion to adjourn this meeting?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those
Aye.
opposed? Motion passes. We are adjourned. Thank you very much.